Morning glory, America. Bonjour, hi, Canada. I'm Hugh Hewitt in the Relief Factor studio. I am so glad to welcome back Akash Chougule from Americans for Prosperity, one of our great sponsors. Akash, I want to tip my hat first. I was hearing yesterday the fellas over at the Ruthless Podcast urging people to go to americansforprosperity.org, sign up and get in the game. That's very brilliant. That is the Political Junkie podcast, right? That's where you go to get the hardcore political news and the behind-the-scenes strategery that's going on. Did you make that choice, or do you have a marketing division that made that choice?
We've got a whole team, Hugh, but the fellas are great. As you know, I've been on with them a couple of times, and they share our perspective that the time for talking is over and the time for doing is here. And so we're partnering with them, getting people active on doors and phones, and we appreciate their partnership to build the grassroots all across the country. Love those guys.
I want to amplify the message they gave and have you talk about it. AFP is not just an organization, think tank, economic policy advisor, not just a 501c3, a 501c4. It's actually got people working on the ground. It is a great way to get into politics. And if your local party structure is messed up, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, but if you believe in free markets, AFP can use your help, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We are the largest conservative organization in the country, Hugh, and that's exactly right. Whether it's local college Republican, Tea Party groups, local party organizations, a lot of them either don't have the infrastructure or, frankly, don't have the focus to make a difference in the grassroots. And frankly, I've been out, I'm sure you have too in the past, been out to these events and these door knocking days. They're fun. We order food. Our teams are great. People are local. They're from those communities. If the weather's bad, you can be inside making phone calls or helping organize in other ways. But we've done the math, we've done the data collection. Nothing replaces door knocking when it comes to actually influencing somebody at as far as how they vote and what they think on public policy and what the kind of shake that free markets and conservatism get in the mainstream media. Door knocking and taking that message directly to the voters is as important as it's ever been, and we do it bigger and better than anybody else.
Now, shoe leather matters. All right. Now, I don't think I'll get to be able to tell Brett Baer this tonight on Special Report, but I'm very proud of the journalism that I did yesterday, shoe leather journalism, because I got interested in the price of eggs because everyone eats eggs, right? They're kosher. People with children have to eat eggs. My associate producer for booking goes through 5 to 7 dozen eggs a week. They actually use an egg subscription service. They eat so many eggs. She has 4 children. And Bethany Mandel's got 6 kids. Everyone goes through eggs. So I went out and tried to buy eggs in my local area. Here's the egg stand that I stopped at. It's a farm stand. Throw up that picture, Harley, so that Akash can see. At the farm stand, all right, no middleman, it's $7 a dozen of eggs. Now, those are homegrown, straight. Everyone wants fresh. They go to the farm stand. But then I went around town, and I went to the local convenience store. That cost $6.99. I went to a CVS pharmacy, which does some food on the side, $5.99. Then we went to the supermarket, and it's $4.29. And before people jump all over me and say, well, what about Costco? Costco's more expensive than the local supermarket that Fetching Mrs. Hewitt shops there. I think this is the eggs election. I don't think that. Look at what it was in 2020. $1.51 for a dozen eggs, and now it's minimum $4.29 and probably as high as $7. Do people get this? Do they understand that's the Harris-Biden policy?
So I think they know prices are up. They don't need you or me to tell them prices are up, Hugh. I think the question is, whose fault do they think it is? You know who gets that it's a prices election right now? Clearly it's Kamala Harris, right? She's about to roll out this price gouging nonsense, and I'm using air quotes, that she's going to try to blame grocery stores for high prices. They understand that people are either going to try to blame this administration and the Democrats for their $6 trillion in reckless spending that caused this inflation crisis, or Kamala Harris can try to deflect blame to corporations or to somebody else. But you and I know the fact of the matter is $6 trillion in reckless spending, thousands and thousands of pages of regulations, coupled with supply chain issues and other kind of non-policy factors, drove this inflation crisis, which has driven up food prices, which is hurting families all across the country to this day because it's cumulative and it's been going on for more than 3 years now.
Gosh, that's actually why I spent the time yesterday. I saw that she was going to go with the price gouging, price control stuff. I thought, wait a minute, let's see if there's price gouging in my neighborhood. You can't organize Costco to the farm. You can't get CVS in the local market to price gouge. It's not price gouging. Does anyone believe this nonsense?
It is beyond insulting to the American voter, Hugh. You know what it reminded me of, and I tweeted this yesterday. Remember when they passed Obamacare? You had that professor at MIT who said it relied on the stupidity of the American voter. I mean, just
Yes.
beyond insulting to believe that people would believe this stuff. I don't think they're going to fall for it, but I think the Harris campaign knows they have to deflect blame from themselves, frankly, and other Democrats in Congress who caused this inflation crisis. I don't think people are going to fall for it. You know why, Hugh? Do you know what the profit margin was for grocery stores last year?
2%?
1%. 1%. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I think I'm going to steal your line, beyond insulting, because that's what it is. Now will you unpack? We got about 4 minutes. She wants to give $25,000 to new home buyers. There's apparently an unconstitutional preference for people of color, which just doesn't fly. But she's going to talk about it next week. What would happen if we started giving out $25,000 checks to people to buy their first home?
Yeah, well, let's look at what has happened in other places where government has tried to, quote unquote, lower costs by giving people money to buy these things. The cost of higher education, the cost of healthcare. These are two great examples, right? Costs have skyrocketed way beyond inflation over not just the past handful of years, the past several decades, right? There's a reason that everywhere where the government gets more involved to try to make things less expensive, things get more expensive. The reason for that is, Hugh, the people who supply these things, provide these things, and build these things see government as a bottomless pit of money to make themselves richer. And the exact same thing is going to happen to housing. We've seen this happen already in California. You obviously know this. In California, housing costs have skyrocketed because government has tried to make it easier for people to afford homes, and in the process has priced out the middle class, and people are fleeing California. I think this is arguably the biggest reason why they do so. And then they go to a low cost of living area like Houston, Texas, which has very few zoning regulations and much lower housing costs. The idea of government making home prices more affordable by giving people money for them is, again, just beyond ridiculous. And frankly, there's a great headline in the Washington Post today. If your opponent's calling you a socialist, maybe don't propose rent controls and price controls, because that is literally what they do in socialist countries, and it results.
I didn't want to put words in your mouth again, but I was a land use lawyer for 30 years till I retired in 2016 when I left California. I represented large landowners and developers. If you give new home buyers $25,000, home prices will go up at least that much, because all you are doing is putting pressure on the bottom end of the market. More buyers, no more houses. You don't increase the housing stock. It's insane, Akash. Why do you think they're running with an insane economic policy?
Because they need one-liners to sell to the American people to deflect from the fact that they are the ones at fault for the price increases, for prices going up 19% since President Biden and Harris took office. The biggest reason for that is the $6 trillion in reckless spending that they pushed through on a partisan basis when they had full control. They need one-liners to answer questions from voters and the media for why prices have gone up, and they just hope to God that voters believe them. That's as simple as it is. And until Republicans go out and start making the case for why, quote unquote, grocery stores are not to blame and housing suppliers are not to blame for higher prices, but it is in fact Democrat spending and government policy, they might as well get away with it, Hugh, because nobody in the mainstream media is asking them questions, right? She's apparently having a hard time scheduling a sit-down interview as a presidential candidate, and so it's on us to go out and explain the truth.
25 days. She can't defend her record, and she can't explain these crazy policies. Akash, I want to finish by reminding people, AmericansForProsperity.org, go and sign up. And I want to finish by asking you, in terms of, it's a jump ball election right now. It's a statistically tied election in the 7 swing states. There's one swing state where Georgia, where Trump's ahead beyond the margin of error. How do you see it unfolding over the next 80 days? What's going to make or break this?
I think it is a jump ball today, and it will be a jump ball before Election Day. And the thing that will make a difference is message discipline and ground game. Whoever wins that battle between these two sides will win this election. Again, both.
I just heard a baby. I just heard a baby. You know who's going to make a difference? Young parents who do shopping for children who are hungry. That's what's going to, I really do believe. That's it. That's the demo.
They will be moved by message discipline and a message directly to their faces. And that's what these, especially conservatives need to focus on.
Akash, thank you for joining me. AmericansForProsperity.org is our sponsor. I couldn't be happier that they are. I'm coming right back. We'll tell you a little bit more, but Tarzana Joe with a little lighthearted poetry first on the Hugh Hewitt Show, Friday edition.
Portions of the Hugh Hewitt Show are brought to you in part by AmericansForProsperity.org.